All right. Ready? Here's a Gemara for your Jacks.
So funny.
You gotta have a seat. You're in the front row.
Okay.
Gotta,
What page?
right here. Yeah, I got him on the political rally. All right. Today's Daf Ches. All right.
Stuff this.
Yeah, Jack, maybe move over a little so people sit in this chair so people can see. Yeah, it'll be
okay.
easier. Yeah, no one's there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Yes.
And the way we go, so the top of today's Daf Ches, Maseches Nazir. So Haredi Nazir. So actually, we saw some of this Mishnah yesterday. It was quoted yesterday. So Haredi Nazir, Kaseh Roishi. Person says, "I'm a Nazir, like the hair of my head, or the dust of the earth and the sand of the sea." Harei ze Nazir Eilam. Such a person is a Nazir Eilam. In other words, according to the Tanna Kama, he is a Nazir, and every 30 days he goes ahead and he brings another korban. So basically, it's a continuous run of Nazirs. And then we saw this yesterday, because each speck of sand, each hair is separate, and each one signifies another Naziris, and therefore he said to the end of his life. Rabbi Yomer, no, he doesn't have that courtesy, right? The easiest to get off and just, be able to still be able to just, cut his hair, just his restriction, he brings his korban 30 days. No, that's too easy for him. Rather, he stays, according to Rabbi, and this will be a little key later on. Rather, he stays and he has one long term of Nazirus, like the sea, right? Like the amount of hair, that's the amount referring to the amount of days. I'll take one share. So what is something that is somebody who has to go ahead and every 30 days, it means that it's basically an unlimited amount of 30-day Naziris back to back. Yeah, thank you. That is someone says, right, upon me, Naziros, plural. If he says plural, in other words, then it means, yes, he's a multiple amount of Naziros terms. That's what Naziros means. If he says Haredi Nazir Kasera, since Nazir is one term, it's one term of Naziros, but it's the length of the sand of the beach. So therefore, that's the difference between Rebbe and the Tanna Kama. So Rebbe requires you use the lashon of Naziros, right? Plural, to say there is multiple amount of terms. Now, next case. Hareni Nazir Malay Habai Yismalay Kupa. This is going to be the case we're going to discuss today. So I'm going to be a Nazir, like a house full or like a box full. So we go ahead and we look into the matter. Remember to keep yourself on mute. We look into the matter. If he just said, basically, I meant like, to be a Nazir is like, it's like everything that could fit in this house or everything that could fit in this box. It's a lot on me, but I'm just saying this is referring to one term of Naziros, then Shleishim Yom. Then he Chesem Rav. Then he has to do 30 days. However, if he just said, I said stam, right? I didn't necessarily have that in mind. We look at the box as if it is filled with mustard seed. The Nazir Kol Yamav, and he is a Nazir for all of his days. Right? He's a Nazir all his days. In other words, that basically we look at the box as if it is considered to be Nazirus over and over and over. Now, Haredi Nazir Mikan Adma complain. If he saw us yesterday, if he says, "Hold on, I'm Nazir." From here until a certain place. So we go ahead and evaluate. Kama Yamin, you kind of not complaining. How long does it take to travel there? If he says, okay, so I'm here to Naperville and it's less than 30 days a travel, then Nazir Shleishim Yom. Then he's the minimum of Nazir for 30 days. However, let's say it's more, let's say it's 50 days. Nazir Kiminyan Hayam. Then he is a Nazir for the amount of days of travel, because that's what he's referring to here to there, because it's a 50-day, right? It's not a 3-hour tour, it's a 50-day tour. So therefore he takes 50 days. Haredi Nazir Kiminyan. However, he says, if I'm a Nazir Kiminyan Yimaisachama, like the count of days in a solar year, which is 365, right? Then Mayna Nazirus Kiminyan Yimaisachama, then he serves 365 consecutive Naziros, right? I guess that's what, 30 years or less than 20 years, whatever. 360 divided by 12. Yeah. 20, right? No, 10, right? 10. Yeah. Fine. So many Naziros community Mezachama. On Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Maisa Haya, there was a Maisa like this, and came on Sheishlim, and once somebody went ahead and did it, and he did 365 consecutive terms of Naziros, and once he did it, then he was maced, then he died. So he basically actually filled it, but it took many years, then he died. Huh? That's a lot. Yeah. Zak the Gemara. So now we said, so skip the first case because we dealt with that yesterday with the case of the hair, right? That was the machlekes between Tanakam and Rebbe. And then was went to a case. So the person says like a box, he meant it's stamp. So now we say, okay, we look at the box as if it's mustard seed, and therefore basically you were makabel upon yourself, right? Unlimited amount of terms of Naziros. So right, it's like Kuba Malaya Chardal, Venazir Kayama. It is Nazir Liz life. I why is that? Let's say the box is filled with gourds, right? And other melons, right? Things that are larger, that's not unlimited, right? A big box, so you can go ahead and fill, 20, 30, right? It's takanasa. And therefore you have a takana. So even if, let's go back to 50, even if you can go ahead, let's say you can fit 50 melons in this box. Why are you looking at it as unlimited amount of terms since it's something limitless like sand? Therefore, it's unlimited terms of 30 days. Why don't we look at it more like a 50-day voyage, right? For a walk, right? Or whatever, when you're traveling. So let's say it should be a 50-day term Naziros. And let's be Mako. No, it's a no machlekes whether we're machmer or meko by Naziris. Rabbi Shimon, in this opinion, Rabbi Shimon, the Omar Adam machnis is asmal davar shesveiko chomer mivada. That a person, if he subjects himself to, if he subjects himself to a safek, then he puts himself in the machmer. He's more machmer. The tiny than a rice. A person says, hey, I'm going to go ahead and my pile out in my field. I'm going to go ahead. If there's 100 kur, which is a volume, right? There's an amount there that I'm going to be a nazir. So let's go out there and check. And they go out there. It was lost or blew away or was stolen. And it's not there anymore. So they don't know whether the nazirus was triggered or not. Rabbi Shimon says, Rabbi Shimon says also because Savi Nazir is the Hachmer. Rabbi Yehuda Matir, Shasavi Nazir is the Hakim. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, he's mutter because a person would not subject himself to Nazirus to a case of suffix. So our Mishnah is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who holds that a person would, if he subjects himself, it's a suffix, he goes l'chumra. Just like he goes suffix l'chumra, I'm going to be Nazir because we don't know what the pile was. So it's over here. We don't know whether he was referring to melons, which would be mekil, or mustard seed, which is unlimited in terms of Naziris, which is machmer. So we'll call the machmer like Rabbi Shimon. However, Rabbi Yechanan Omar says, no, afilutim Rabbi Yehuda. You could even say our mission is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda goes lekula in a case of supping. Over here would seem to be lechumra. Over there, the reason Rabbi Yehuda said he's not a Nazir is because we don't even know if he subjected himself to Nazirus. We don't know if he was a Nazir or not, right? 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 Over here, he was a Nazir, right? We know for a fact he was a Nazir. Just question is how much is the box? If we look at it as like melons or mustard. So therefore, in the case of we don't know that there's Nazirus, right? So then we could say, okay, then Rabbi Yehuda says we go to Kula. But if we hear Avada, he was a Nazir, we just don't know the terms of it. It wasn't like Chardal, right? And therefore it goes forever, right? Or is it just the amount of melons? So therefore, maybe in this case, Rabbi Yehuda maybe would say that we could be machmer in this case. So Gemara says no. I don't understand. So even in this case, what's the whole thing? There isn't stuff whether Nazirus applies. Why? Everybody agrees in the case of the box that there's at least one Nazirus, right? So that's fine, right? So you do the first term. The question is, because even according to the one who says that it is filled with mustard seed, right? The term ends. So after term 1, the question is, does term 2 start? According to, if you say it was full of mustard seed, term 2 should be starting. according to if you look at melons, it's only one term of 50 melons or 50 days, and then you're done. So basically over here, it should be the same thing. Just like over there, it was a suffix as is there Nazirus or not. So to over here, after the first term, there should be a suffix. Is there a second Nazirus or not? And if that's the case, right, Rabbi Yehuda, right, should in this case, he would say that it would be Mekel. Right? So over here, so we're saying that right, the question is he Mekabel upon himself Nazirus or not? Is there a second term of Nazirus? So maybe we can say it's the same Machlekes. So the Gemara answers the top of Chesed and Beis. He says no. The Rabbi Yehuda saver like Rebbe. Actually, Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rebbe. So now let's see, what are you talking about? The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Rebbe says in the case, the first case of the Mishnah, the case of the hair, he says, no, if a person says, right, like the hair on my head, so according to the Tanakama, that means a continuous amount of 30-day terms. And Rebbe says, no, that's not continuous 30-day terms, right? Which is like what we thought the case of the mustard was, and the mustard was the same as the hair. Rebbe says, no, that's not the case of there. When you say I'm a Nazir, like the sand or the hair on my head, right? That means that you're a Nazir for an unlimited long term. You don't get this 30-day, haircuts. You're not allowed to do any of that, right? What is someone who goes ahead is allowed to go ahead and trim every 30 days? That is Naziros. Right? When he uses the plural term of Naziros terms. And therefore, in our case, right, Rabbi Yehuda would hold like Rabbi that the case of mustard is not a case of continuous 30-day terms. It can't be, right? Because according to Rabbi, that's not true, because he didn't say Naziros like the box, right? He said Nazir like the box. So therefore, that's one long term. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda would hold like Rabbi and says that we're only referring to one term and not referring to multiple terms. The Gemara says, and who said, Rabbi Yehuda, and does Rabbi Yehuda hold like Rabbi, right? But Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Hareini Nazir Kiminyan Yimaisachama. So over there, they have a case of a person says, we saw later on, I am a Nazir, like the count or the day, right? The count of the days the solar. In other words, we said over there, that's 360 days, right? Or 360 terms, 365, excuse me. And Rabbi Yehuda, and says, Rabbi Yehuda, there was an actual Maisa of Kevan Sheish, they Mace, and once the guy, finished up all of his terms, he died. Now, Rabbi Yehuda brings up this case afterwards. So obviously, Rabbi Yehuda agreed with the halacha, right? That if a person says, I'm a Nazir, like the days of the year, then he's a Nazir for 365 terms, consecutive terms. Now, if he says the word over there, Naziros, right? Plural, right? Terms and not term of a Nazirus. So then, that's the reason why that he would do 365 terms as opposed to one Nazirus for 365 days, right? So rather he does 365 month terms of Nazirus. But if he said only says Nazirus as referring to one singular, would he go ahead and do them all? He shouldn't do it all, right? He shouldn't do it. He should only do one term of Nazirus, right, for 365 days, right? He shouldn't do it for 365 terms, right? So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda would argue. Rabbi in this case would say it's only one Nazirus because he didn't say Naziros. He just said I'm a Nazir, like the count of the days. And furthermore, he said like Rabbi. Who says Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rabbi in other case? All the time in the Bryce, Rabbi Yehuda, Hareini Nazir, Minyan, Hareini Nazir, Minyan, Hilkate Kites. A person says, I am a Nazir, right? Like the minyan, the count of, I guess, piles of like figs in the summer, I guess, right? Towards the end. Uminyan, right? Shabli Shemitah. And also he said, right? So he says, I am a count in terms of the amount of Shiboli, right? Shemitah, right? The number of, I guess, paths through here, or I'm a Nazir for the amount of piles of figs. Maina Nazirus Kamina, look at the kites, Kamina Shvili Shemitah. Then he counts that amount. And since he says the word minyan, he's referring to the amount of piles, right? That's the amount. So you see over there, the word minyan also basically works to mean each one is a separate term. So where's this not minyan shani? So minyan is different. You mean shana the Rebbe minyan. So okay, you say Rabbi Yehuda says this, if you say the word minyan is different, it means separate terms. Does Rabbi say that? You want to say Rabbi Yehuda all day, Rabbi? If a person says I'm a Nazir, which is used in the Mishnah like the minyan yimasachama, Maiden Nazir's minyan yimasachama, he does 365 terms, and Kimei Alavana, if it's the lunar year, then Maina Kimei Alavana, then he does 354 terms, right? And Rabbi says on that case. He says until he says Naziros, you can't just say Nazir. So clearly, Rabbi Yehuda argues, right? Rabbi Yehuda holds minyan is a separator, and over here, Rabbi says clearly the word minyan count does not imply separate terms. So Rabbi Yehuda, the word answers Rabbi Yehuda started like fine, you're right. Rabbi Yehuda agrees with Rabbi in one case and disagrees in another case. He agrees with him when it comes to the word Nazir. If it says the word Nazir without minyan or anything, that just says Nazir, then whatever it is, even if it's a lot of things, it means separate terms. Excuse me. If he says one term, if he says Nazir, right? If he says the only way to be separated terms is to say Naziros, right? Okay, like Rabbi in that case. But he argues in the other case, Rabbi Yehuda, Shani Lei Maina. However, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if he just says Nazir, minyan, something, then the word minyan acts like the word Naziros, plural, to mean separate terms. However, Rabbi says, even if a person says Haredi Nazir, minyan, Yimasachama, that doesn't make a difference. That doesn't separate it. He only said, I'm a Nazir, not Naziros, and therefore it's one term of 365 days. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda argues with Rabbi in one and agrees with Rabbi in the other case. Fine.
So is according to Rabbi, is he accepting one long Naziros? Or
yes, it'd be one long Naziros in the case.
One long
yes, because he didn't say the word Naziros. According to Rabbi, you have to say the word Naziros. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you can use the word Naziros or minyan. Right? Either one of those will make it multiple terms. Fine. Taner Rabbanan now is very similar. We saw earlier. We saw this yesterday. Hareni Nazir almost come out the Mishnah. Hareni Nazir Kol Yimei Chaya. The person says, "I am a Nazir for all my days." Hareni Nazir Eilam. He is a Nazir Eilam, and or if he says Hareni Nazir Eilam, then Harezi Nazir Eilam. He's also a Nazir Eilam. He's someone who goes ahead and has Nazirus, and every 30 days he can go ahead and clear. And afilu mea shana, but if he says 100 years, not limitless, or afilu elef shanim, or 1,000 years, ein ze nazir eilam ela nazir eilam. It means he's not a nazir eilam, he's not a reoccurring nazirs for 30 days. Rather, he is somebody who has one long term of 100 or 1,000 years. In other words, basically until his death, and doesn't get this 30 days, the 30-day reprieve.
So we're saying a Nazir Olam means every 30 days.
Right. Not to get confused with Nazir Eilam with Shalom, which was a little different, right? But this was Nazir Eilam means, in this case, as we saw yesterday, the Rashi, right? The there is referring to that he's a Nazir forever. In other words, he's continuous terms of Naziros until forever. 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. And each one, he shaves his head, brings his karbanos. Taner Rabbanan Hareni Nazir v'yachas. The person says, I'm a Nazir and one. Yeah. So minus time, he does two terms, 30 days and 30 days. If he says v'od, he says Hareni Nazir v'achas v'od, mana shalosh. Then the v'od means that and another term, and a third term. V'shuv, and he says Hareni Nazir achas v'od, right? V'shuv, mina arba. Right, he does 4 terms in Naziris. Says sheet, that's obvious. Each one signifies another term. So Mazebo just said v'shuv, and he says and again. Kikulu Havi, maybe Ashis, right? Maybe it means 6. In other words, 1, 2, 3, and again doesn't mean a fourth, means and again, do the 1, 2, 3 again, maybe passing at 6, right? 3 times 2, not 3, right? Not 3 plus 1, right? So it's Havi like Shis, Kamash Malondolo, therefore it says Veshuv, just means a 4th term. And Taner Rabbanan, Hareni Nazir, a person says Hareni Nazir, Sukal Saimer, Hain, Achas. And the person says, I'm a Nazir Hain, right? Hain is 1, so therefore he's 1 term. Haredi nachas digun. If he's a digun, if he's I'm a nazir digun, that is shtaim. That is 2 terms. Haredi nazir tregon. I'm Nazir Trigon, that's 3 times Shalosh. Hareini Nazir Tetragon, right? That is Arba, that's 4. And if he says Hareini Nazir Pentagon, right, then is Chamesh, then is 5, right? A lot of these come from the terms that now are what language is that? Penta and all those? Is that Greek? From the Greek language. And Tana Rabbanan, and similarly, base equal a rounded house with no corners, or digon, or a house with 2 corners, trigon, or 3 corners, or a pentagon, or 5 corners, Eino Matame Benegayim, does not get saras. However, tetragon, if it's 4 corners, then Matame Benegayim, then it does have can get saras. My timer was the reason. So Lamato Aimer Kir Kirais, it says it could use the word Kir, but it says he used Kirais, plural. And Lamalahu, I mean, earlier in the Psukim it says, instead of saying Kir, it says Kiros. That's another 2. So 2 plus 2, Hare Kan Arba. Therefore, you need 4 walls for a house to be based on Nuga, for a house to be a house that gets leprosy. Everything else does not have the halachic status of having a base Nuga, and does have the halachas that apply with the tumah there. So Hajjallah Kol Kinui. We will continue from here. Everybody have a wonderful